You guys all right? It's time. Day 2. All right, where were we? This book, it's about learning, science, the science of learning. There's 8 chapters. All right, we got learning is misunderstood. We got meaning. Learning often doesn't feel like learning, paradoxically, and also things that feel easy like you're learning often don't lead to much learning. Okay? What else we got? To learn, retrieve. Pull it out of your own brain. Use active recall. Use retrieval. Use testing. Create things. Do not consume things if to learn. What do we got? Another chapter is called Make It Stick. Sure, that's a wrap-up chapter. What else we got? Something about maybe spacing. Something about varying practice. All right. What else? Can we pull anything out from the edge? All right. I'll be back in a second. Okay. We got those 3, right? Another one. Mix up your practice. Mix up your learning. Avoid illusions of knowing. That's another chapter. Get beyond learning styles. It's another chapter. Increase your abilities. Embrace difficulties. There we go. That's all 8. All right. Come on. Learning is misunderstood. To learn, retrieve. Mix up your practice. Embrace difficulty. Avoid illusions of knowing. Get beyond learning styles. Increase your abilities. Make it stick. Make it stick right there. That's all 8 chapters. All right. Did I miss one? Nope. Mix everything. Got that shit blocked. All right. Next time, we're going to pull them out again. But we got plenty more time to study today. What are we going to do? We're going to jump into chapter 1. All right. And so, am I just going to start reading chapter 1? Did I just start reading the book from page 1 when I wanted to study the book? Nah, bro. Nah. We're going to go and flip through the chapter, and then I'm going to talk. And then we're going to go talk to ChatGPT, and then I'm going to talk. Retrieve when I'm saying talk. And then we're going to look up maybe some blog posts, some internet posts, some reviews, maybe whatever. We're going to get a good understanding of what this chapter is about before we even touch the chapter. All right, let's do it. All right, guys. So what have I just done? I have flipped through the chapter multiple times, read all the notes I had left in the chapter from the first time I had read it. I also wrote down the headings and subheadings because I noticed the chapter was hierarchically organized in a way such that there's the title, the chapter. Learning is misunderstood. Is this backwards or just for me? I don't know. That I will see in post, I guess. Anyway, learning is misunderstood. That's the chapter, first chapter. We got it. But then there's 5 headings in the chapter. 5 headings. And then there's 3 subheadings under one of the headings. So the first one, first of all, there's a preface that I didn't realize there. So there's a preface and then the 8 chapters. Okay, learning is misunderstood. Claims we make in this book is the first heading. So claims they make in this book, one of those claims is obviously learning is misunderstood. And we're going to have to dive into these claims. Try to elaborate or pull anything out based on the claims they make in this book. I'm sure they make claims based on empirical evidence, which is the next heading. They're basing all this book on empirical evidence. And empirical evidence is scientific data, essentially. And large bodies of scientific data, and what that points to rather than the second heading, empirical evidence versus theory, lore, and intuition. So they're just talking about what is the science of learning, what does the data point to, not what is theoretically the best, not what is lore, what is intuition. And one of the claims of this book may be that what is intuitive for learning many times, for some reason, is actually very ineffective. And I wonder why that is. Anyway, there's 3 subheadings under that heading of empirical evidence versus theory, lore, and intuition. Those are: people misunderstand learning. Well, okay. Okay. Early evidence. I don't know what early evidence means. I'm assuming it's talking about the original studies and when the original data came out about whatever, the learning techniques that may be ineffective, such as rereading, highlighting, mass practicing, versus such as things such as testing and retrieval. And then the third subheading is illusions of knowing. Okay. Illusions of knowing. It's like when you recognize something and you think you know it then, but in reality, if you actually got tested on it, you wouldn't get it right. So not thinking you know, but not actually knowing. The third big heading, knowledge, not sufficient but necessary. This one, I believe, I recall, is about people complaining, saying testing, standardized tests, this and that, not, kids don't need to memorize stuff, that it's not worth it, or it's not, they need to be taught. Einstein said, like, it's not about knowledge, it's about creativity, and basically that stance. And the authors are basically saying, well, really, to be creative, to problem solve, you need to take things you know and use them. So you need to have the ingredients, the knowledge, in order to think creatively, be creative, use things creatively, problem solve creatively, etc. The fourth heading, testing, dipstick versus learning tool. I don't know what dipstick means. Dipstick. Okay. Dipstick versus learning tool. So maybe dipstick is like a measure. Is testing a measure of how you do, or is it actually potentially a learning tool? And I think the claim is going to be actually it's both. It is the most effective. Testing is the most effective learning technique. Why? Because 2 things. It shows you what you don't know, right? And where you're weak. It reveals your weaknesses. And also, it's retrieval practice, which is the strongest study technique. Finally, the takeaway. The takeaway. I'm sure that's just summarizing up the chapter. And so there is a technique in learning called, what is it? SQR3? Scan, query, read, recall. Read, retrieve, reflect. Something along those lines. Anyway, SQ, scan and query. The scan I did, I had a note in there that apparently exposure does nothing for learning. And I wrote that down probably because it is profound to me. Like, I don't know. I still don't know if I agree with that. So we'll be looking at that because that kind of killed the scanning. But when you do scan, effective scanning, you're mapping like I did. I see. I notice things and I verbalize. I subvocalize those observations. Okay. And so anyway, I'm querying the question already. Why do the authors claim learning is misunderstood? Now I got a big question. Now I know what I'm looking for. Here's another question I'll write down. Is exposure worthless for learning? If so, what is considered exposure? Okay, and any other questions? Another thing I noticed was that apparently immediately after reading something, if you reread it, it apparently has no change on amount of learning or testing results. See, and I made a video on my recent change to my motor skill learning techniques and protocol and approach, and see how it doesn't work. Mass practicing doesn't work for like theoretical declarative knowledge, but apparently it really is super effective for motor skills. Just takes years to come to that realization and lots of practice. If I was not trying to master guitar while simultaneously learning about this stuff, I've been playing guitar as long as I've been learning about learning, I would have an oversimplification of what learning is, and I would say, oh, these musicians, oh, these athletes do not mass practice. That is a waste of time. And I think this book actually points to that as well. But the mass practicing I'm talking about for motor skills in the other video is maximum repetitions. So maybe varying your reps actually is more effective than doing the same type of reps, but the amount of time it takes to switch between reps, if you were just doing the same rep in that time it's taking to switch and vary the practice, you're actually getting much more learning potentially. Anyway, if so, what is considered clever? Was there another question I was going to write? Let's see. What claims do the authors make in this book? What claims do they make in this book? Well, there's actually going to be a section on that because I already referred to that heading. People misunderstand learning. How and why do people misunderstand learning? Illusions of knowing, knowledge not sufficient but necessary, dipstick versus... Okay. What are the main points of this chapter? What are the main points? Big ideas of this chapter. Now, is it really worth spending this much time to go through a single book and a single chapter at that? I can't tell you that. I have not done this. This is my first time really going this in depth. I've gone in depth. I've spent, say with The Selfish Gene, that book, I spent who knows how many hours. 50 plus hours reading that book. But this is even further into it. So what I've done here is I've created multiple queries to now prime my attention for what I'm reading. I'll have also a test at the end of the chapter, potentially during, to make sure I got the main points. I can also add more questions later and as I go. But yeah, this is why, not this is why, but like, you may think you can learn faster. Maybe you can. I can, like I said, diminishing returns, but this is I think a very seminal book for me and my interests to be able to talk about every point in the book intellectually and confidently, and be educated about everything in this book because it's one of the seminal works on learning. And so, going back to guitar now, it's very frustrating for me on guitar because I've spent so much time studying how to learn and I believe I'm using extremely effective techniques, yet it still takes so much time. If you do not play an instrument, I think an instrument is the easiest thing to do, easiest way to experience this, but you want to play something, if it's say a lead guitar piece and you don't play lead guitar that often, you could spend an hour a day for weeks or months on end using extremely effective techniques in order to play that piece correctly. And that's just one piece of the millions or billions of pieces of music out there. Yeah. So maybe it is worth spending this much time to go through all this stuff and to really download these mental models and these neurological structures. Maybe it does take a lot of time, but personally, I think slow is fast. In the long run, if you really do learn things very well, it will have a network effect. And if you shallowly learn a bunch of things, you'll never experience the network effect That is, if I learn this book really well, well, then the next book on learning I read will actually be probably like, I know almost everything in this book because this book covers a lot of it already. And I can already then learn that book very quickly by connecting it to what I already know from this, right? And I already know a lot about learning and the theory and the science. So this should really not take that long, but apparently this is what it looks like to not take that long. So before I go, before my time runs out for the day, 25 minutes, let us actively recall what this first chapter headings are about. So, learning is misunderstood, chapter 1. We've got something about this empirical evidence versus lore, theory, and intuition. We've got the takeaways, that's the summary. We've got testing, dipstick, or learning tool. I'm forgetting the first one. I'm not even looking yet. We've got 3 out of 5. Okay, under empirical evidence, lore, intuition, theory, we've got people misunderstand learning, illusions of knowing, and early evidence. And then, okay, now I'm going to go back and look. I'll do it live because it'll be quick. Claims we make in this book. That's what I forgot. Okay, got all that right. Knowledge not sufficient but necessary. Okay. And so instead of mass practicing that, you know what I will do? I'll do the book again. Make it stick. A very big overview of the science of learning. Science specifically. Okay? There's 8 chapters, so there's really 8 big ideas. Maybe less, but we'll start with the chapters and we'll iterate this as we go. Learning is misunderstood. It's chapter 1. To learn, retrieve. Mix up your practice. Embrace difficulties. Avoid illusions of knowing. I don't know. Avoid illusions of knowing. Make it stick is 8. Get beyond learning styles. Okay, we're going to start again. Here we go. No, we're going to switch it up. Now we're going to keep going. Okay. Learning is misunderstood. To learn, retrieve. Avoid illusions of knowing. Embrace difficulties. Embrace difficulties. Avoid illusions of knowing. Get beyond learning styles. Increase your abilities. Make it stick. Okay, and now chapter 1, learning is misunderstood. Headings. We've got claims we make in this book. Empirical evidence versus lore, intuition, theory. With under this one, we've got 3 subheadings. We've got people misunderstand learning, early evidence, and illusions of knowing. Then we've got knowledge, sufficient, but not enough. Testing, dipstick, versus learning tool, the takeaway. Not sufficient. Knowledge, not sufficient. Why is knowledge not sufficient? There's a question. Why is knowledge not sufficient? Now, is it really worth memorizing the structure and the chapters and the headings and stuff? I don't know. We're going to try it, though. All right, this book might take a year to read. It might just take a year to read, and this channel might be devoted to this book for a year. Is that a waste of time? I don't know, man. I think you can think of a little worse waste of time. You could just sit here and scroll on TikTok. All right. We'll call it good. that's day 2 of Make It Stick. We've now understood the main idea in a very broad sense. We've got the chapter outlines, we've got the first chapter structure, hierarchy, and now we're ready. We're going to recall it the next time we do this. We're going to recall both of them. Maybe I'll use Anki so that I don't recall the chapters every time. It's not necessary every time. If I get it right tomorrow, I'll throw it in Anki and we'll throw it in there. And yes. If you don't know what Anki is, maybe I'll make a video about it in the future. I've talked about it previously years ago on this channel. And we've now got a test for ourselves. We've primed our attention for chapter 1, so we'll recall the hierarchy again. Maybe review the questions just to read them, to know what to look for once again. I don't know if that will actually be that effective. That's the stuff we'll all learn as we go. And then we'll start actually reading chapter 1. I'm going to probably actually avoid ChatGPT at this point because I've been getting a lot of information that I don't agree with from it about learning. And then I say, no, I don't agree with that based on this evidence. And then it completely changes what it says. And so I'm starting to think, okay, this source is actually bad. I'm just going to get it straight from the source, straight from the horse's mouth, as they say. So, all right, that's it for today. I'll talk to you guys later.